When it all comes down to the wire, when the pressure is on and the time has come to perform, when the moment is the proverbial do or die, that is when champions are made. A single point separates three drivers with three drastically different stories. A two-time champion looks to make it a hat trick of crowns. Last season's runner-up desperately wants redemption and his first championship. And finally, a rookie is eager to prove himself to the weathered veterans. Which of these three will come out ahead? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 10 of the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, welcome home, I suppose, because Virginia International Raceway plays host to our final round today. I'll let you have the honors of introducing us to the track.
Thanks, Joe, and it is good to be back home. Welcome, everyone, to America's motorsports resort, Virginia International Raceway, located in Alton, Virginia, just outside of Danville, Virginia, USA. This 17-turn, 3.2-mile or 5.2-kilometer track opened in 1957. Carroll Shelby in a Maserati 450S won the inaugural weekend feature race. Many top drivers from around the world have come to competed in this track. Briggs Cunningham, Roger Penske, Richard Petty, and more. In fact, it is the current home to the IMSA WeatherTech Michelin GT Challenge, and in 2019 will be home to the SCCA runoffs. Now, let's take you, the fan, on a lap guide through Virginia International Raceway.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4GT, so let's do a lap around VIR. Down the front stretch into the horseshoe, this is going to be a very popular place for overtakes because of the high speeds and heavy braking. But this is a surprisingly tricky corner with its double apex being slightly awkward. It's not uncommon for drivers to come in too hot and slide off track. After that, you're straightening out the run to NASCAR bend, but the thing to watch out for is the curved braking. If you're a fraction off, the tiniest bit of wheel in the grass means an immediate spin. Then there's a short burst on the power on your way down into left hook. But it's effectively the start of a chicane, and smart drivers will be opening up the second half to help make the run into the snake one long arc. That'll be flat out, and then you finally got a little bit of a rest as you fly under the bridge. However, you'll get right back into it with the climbing S's. With the right line, you shouldn't be lifting until the final right-hander, but that means it should be mostly single-file racing through there. Then comes the blind and scary South Bend. Get your wheels off track, and there's a good chance you'll spin into the tires on the left. Quickly, you're braking for Oak Tree. The second apex is the one you want to set up for, and this is perhaps the most critical corner of the track. Get a poor launch off and you'll be a sitting duck the whole way up the backstretch. It's a long, long climb on your way to the next corner, so anyone with more momentum has quite a while to blow past you. But if you're side by side, get ready for a nerve-rattling game of chicken, because the braking for the roller coaster not only takes you around a kink, but over a blind crest. The runoff is downhill and all grass too, so it's incredibly hard to stop the car if you slip wide. This brings us to Hogpen, where the car is going to be very unsettled while you're trying to slow it up. But this is another turn where the corner exit is all important. You're dumped back onto the main straight, which, even though it's curved, it's all flat to the floor until you brake for the horseshoe again. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around VIR. There you see a lap around Virginia International Raceway with all of its winding hills and narrow twists. Now, today's race has a very special sponsor, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The mission of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society is cure leukemia, lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease, and myeloma, and improve the quality of life of patients and their families. You can find them at www.lls.org. Definitely go check them out. There's a very honorable cause that they're fighting for, and we highly encourage you to help donate what you can to them. Now, that said, let's take a look at the championship, because really that is the big story of today. We talked about what this would do for the points with last race's results. Well, take a look at this. Christian Eisler moves to the lead from third. However, Pinto and Perez are tied for second and are only 1 point back from Eisler. It is basically winner take all. The only big difference between the three is that Eisler has 7 drop points. There you can see on our graphic. That means that if he does not finish, he still gets 7 points. So if Pinto and Perez finish far down the order with Eisler DNFing, they could still lose the championship to him, even if they score points. Juan Manuel Landini is, of course, not able to compete for the crown. He has now fallen out of it mathematically, and so has Aaron Thacker. So 4th and 5th are as high as they are going to go. What about the team's championship? What's that looking like over there, Taylor?
Well, the team's championship is really stacked this season. If we take a look at that still, SDS Racing Onyx with Eisler and Landini still hold on to the points lead by a good margin from Team Bushvink Racing in 2nd place. Team HJ Motorsports holding on in 3rd place with the 2 Fords of Thacker and Hall. But gaining a position after the last round at the Nürburgring is the Ferrari Apex Button Box team. They gain from 4th place now, while the Sailors Racing team drops down to 5th. So it looks like a tight battle for the points championship as well.
And in case you've never watched this series before, why don't we fill you in on the race details for today? What we can expect here in the final round. As we said, 10 of 10, and they do have that 1 drop week for points. Now, there's 3 different makes of cars all in one class. These are the GTE cars. There you see the Porsche 911, the Ferrari 488, and the new Ford GT. Today's race distance, just like a lot of the others, is 45 minutes, and that means you can expect a single pit stop. Usually they can go about 35 minutes on a tank in these cars. Maybe a little bit less here today. We'll talk to Taylor about that in a little bit, see what kind of distance we can expect. The setups are open on the car. That means that anything that you can do on the real cars, you can do on these cars here in iRacing. You can tweak them to your desire. Incident cap, that means if they run off track, they have a spin, they hit another car or the wall, well, that gives them incident points. If they hit 30 of those, they are disqualified on the spot. They will disappear, and they cannot finish the race. That also is included in the fact that they have no fast repairs, meaning no spare car waiting if they damage their current one that they can hop into in the pit. So you break it, you bought it, as we like to say here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Now, qualifying going to be a little bit important here, Taylor. So I kind of want us to try and pay attention to what's happening down there right now in these final 7 minutes. And I see that Eisler is leading by about 1/10 over Perez, and Pinto seems like he needs to pick up the pace.
Yeah, Pinto definitely will need to find that extra 10th, get into the 143 mark, because looking at him through practice, he was struggling just a little bit through certain parts of the track, I noticed, especially through the roller coaster section. So he's going to have to make sure to hit his marks through that. Otherwise, he's going to end up losing a championship tonight.
And then we also talked about the pit stops as well. I estimated about 35 minutes. Does that seem about right around here? Because there's some long, flat-out stretches at this track.
There is indeed, and throughout most of the season, that's usually the time that a lot of these drivers decide to make their pit stop. At least our front runners, they wait till about 10 minutes are left in the session before they decide to make their pit stop. Now, however, though, we may see some drivers decide, let's pit a little early, maybe try and leapfrog the competition, and so we'll have to just wait and see what these drivers are planned. I know no one's revealing their card right now, so close battle tonight.
We're watching Pinto, and he's actually just behind Perez. So they'll cross the line one after the other. Perez sitting in 2nd, Pinto in 4th. Just 1/10 between our front row at the moment. As we watch Pinto finish up the lap, I'm keeping an eye on Perez to see if he improves and can go to the pole. Again, he is a point down from Eisler, so he wants to start ahead of him because of the difficulty passing around here. And it looks like he does not improve. What about Pinto? He's only got 1 time lap. And he still only has 1 time lap, as that last one did not count either. And I talked about the difficulty in passing here, the way it's hard to find a way by. And Taylor, you've had a lot of experience here in the real world, seeing real cars race here. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that these drivers are going to be facing.
Well, one of the biggest challenge a lot of these drivers will be facing is that they are going to have a lot of hard-braking corners that they have to master. In order to just take care of those brakes, also those curves, they're going to be a real factor. They may help them in some instances where it helps turn the car, or hinder them where it might send them off track. Now, the biggest part is going to be making sure that they are careful through the roller coaster section. A lot of drivers might try to go too wide in there, but really that's not a good idea to do. Otherwise, it could send either you, your competition, or other drivers sending right into the wall. So you got to be careful through certain sections of this track, especially in South Bend, because it's such a high-speed corner. Just going out a little bit farther into the grass could send you into the wall before you hit Oak Tree.
So we ride on board with DuPont there for a moment, the Canadian coming around the final corners. And I can report that Perez just completed another lap, but another one that did not count for him. There's Perez working his way around Oak Tree now onto the back stretch. Pinto did another lap himself. Actually, no, it looks like Pinto pitted and he's come back out. So he's started a new lap, maybe got some fresh tires. He's got not a lot of time left to get some laps in with just under 4 minutes now to go.
Yeah, I was watching Pinto trying to do his qualifying run. He went a little bit too wide in South Bend and pushed into the grass, and that tires just got him real loose, and he just lost it going into South Bend. So he's needing to make sure to just take his time, run the track, and lay down his lap as quick as he can.
Up to the start-finish line, Ben Perez has a few laps in here. Let's see if this one's any faster. No, it is not. A 48.5. That will not improve his time at all. In fact, that's a pretty slow lap. And the interesting thing in this mix is Juan Manuel Landini. He's sitting third, ahead of Pinto, one of our championship challengers. He's got a 143.8, actually 8.6, so less than a tenth behind Ben Perez. He could be a wrench in this fight between these three because he has nothing really to worry about except the race win here today.
Yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of these, our top three needs to worry about is that everyone else in this field, they just want to end the season on a high note, whether it be getting a win, a good finish. So they're going to need to be careful around the other competition. Yes, they're racing for a championship and they need to worry about their competition, but they also need to worry about everyone else on track because, to be honest, it's going to be a hard racing here tonight. It's the last race of the season, and I'm sure everyone wants to try to finish in the best position possible.
Last lap by Whalen improved his time, but did not improve his position. Here's another driver that really needs a good result, having come in late in the season and had some speed, just not really the greatest of results so far. He currently sits in fifth. One of the few drivers, I believe, to have a pole in this series. The stats have really been lopsided in terms of results with these drivers. Eisler, Perez, and Pinto have taken the lion's share of the records this season.
One thing I gotta say about the PRL series is that even though this is the last race of the season, there's still a good close to over 20 cars still here tonight. So I gotta give a big shout out to this series for what they've been able to do for these past 10 rounds of keeping these drivers to come back week after week. Knowing being a former owner in a league of myself, it can be very difficult to keep a good high number of quality cars and drivers to come back, even if they're not in the championship eligibility. So this has been quite one heck of a season. And Joe, I can't thank you enough for letting me come on and call the races here with you.
I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been a joy calling these with you. As Whalen crosses, let's see if Whalen improves his time. No, he does not. 44.5 for him. And he was beat to the line by Eisler, whose next lap, again, did not count. Seems like the off tracks are really hurting drivers here today.
Yeah, it has been. I've been noticing a lot of cars putting their wheels off a little bit too far out, whether it be washing up wide in turn one or just washing up in any part of the track, or getting loose in certain parts to where they have to save the car and have to go off course. So as we see Pinto, watching him still trying to lay a good lap down, has not been able to set it, still decided to pull it down pit road after spinning out.
Apologies to the rest of the field. I know we've been focusing a lot on the top here. We get a glance at Justin Hall sitting in 11th at the moment. Obviously, all eyes kind of are gravitating towards our top runners, wanting to see how this all develops, because the story is unfolding before our eyes on who is going to be this season's champion in the American iRacing Tuesday series. Meanwhile, Cristobal sitting there in 13th has a little bit of an off in the horseshoe, and the timer is now out. So whatever lap these guys are on, They either have to finish it or abandon it because they cannot get any more laps in after this. So let's see who's going to be the first to finish. I think Eisler, actually. He's heading towards Hogpen right now. He's sitting on the pole, so all he can really do is try to make himself harder to reach. He's got a 10th over Perez again. Comes down the start-finish line in that Martini Porsche. Let's see if this one's going to count. He's only got 2 times lapped. It counts, but again, it is not fast enough. Just barely slower than his fastest lap. And it looks like Perez and Pinto both not on track, so they are not going to be able to improve their position. Here comes Pete Mabroten, sitting in 10th. And that just finishes it off for him as he actually, that's coming up to the horseshoe, so he is done. Guillaume Dupont coming to the line, sitting in 6th position. He could potentially bring himself up a spot, but it'll take a lot because he's 6/10 behind Whalen in 5th. And he's going to stay 6/10 behind him, unfortunately. So P6 for Guillaume Dupont. Justin Hall comes across the line. His last lap is his fastest. That bumps him up to 10th. And he is the last car across. So with that, we are going to go through our starting grid here at Virginia International Raceway. Pole sitter Christian Eisler leads the championship points by a single point. Let's see if he can hold that lead throughout the race. That will obviously seal up the championship for him. Ben Perez will start in 2nd, and Juan Manuel Landini will be in row 2 in 3rd. Daniel Pinto, the other championship, the 3rd of our championship fighters between Eisler, Perez, and himself, starts in 4th with William Whalen starting in 5th. P6 goes to Guillaume Dupont with Michael Overbay starting in 7th. Aaron Thacker will be P8 at the drop of the green with Thomas Ellison 9th and Justin Hall 10th. Taylor?
Starting in the 11th position in the number 15 Porsche is Pete Mabroten, followed by Mark Feil in the 777. Starting in 13th, Cristobal Valenzuela in the 333, followed by the 09 Ferrari of Eric Luke in 14th. Danny Duchesne in the number 27 will start 15th, followed by Sean Kenning in 16th position. Gary Schilling starting 17th in the number 17, followed by Victor O'Brien in 18th position. The last driver to set a time lap in qualifying is the number 71 Lucio Vargas, and rounding out your top 20 is Takeshi Kita. Joe?
Andrew Fawcett will start in 21st, then Karsten Quinn 23rd, and Hugo Galaz rounds out the field in 22nd. 22 cars out there today that will see race in this final round. Now, I said that these guys will need to finish ahead of Eisler to beat him. There is a very, very slim chance that they could tie with him without beating him. And actually, let me double check that math, because actually, no, they would not tie them, excuse me. But still, this brings me to a point that we do need to discuss. Eisler gained 1 more point because he was 1 point ahead. He is now 2 points ahead because he gets a bonus point for getting pole. Now, there are 2 other ways in which they can get bonus points. They can either get the fastest lap and or they can finish with 3 incidents or less. Now, all of them can finish with 3 incidents or less, so even Eisler could get 1 more bonus point at the end of the race. And we cannot call our winner of the championship until we determine what those incident points were. So unfortunately, when they cross the line at the checkered flag, we won't be totally sure until the stewards have tallied everything up. We'll try to get you the official one on that. But in the meantime, a full pace lap around here at Virginia International Raceway. And Taylor, I hate to put you on the spot, but who's your pick for the championship? Who do you think is going to come away with it all?
Oh, this is so tough. All 3 drivers have showed excellent pace, excellent speed all season, but to be honest, I'm going to have to go with Christian Eisler. He has just been needing this championship. He just shows his pace. Even when he's having a rough week, he just comes out and still tries to put on as much speed as he can. So I'm going to have to go with Christian Eisler tonight.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to talk to Eisler and Pinto personally, so I'm not sure what their feelings are towards one another coming into this. For those of you that missed last round, this whole scenario with the 1 point separating the top 3 was basically happened because Eisler and Pinto ran into one another with only 10 minutes left on the clock. at the Nürburgring. A bit controversial. There are some people that thought maybe a penalty needed to be levied, but there was no penalty in the end. Don't know. I mean, basically, if Pinto would have finished the race even just barely behind Eisler, he would have had a big lead and been at the top of the points coming into this thing. So I wonder how hard those two are going to race each other if they get door to door.
Well, it is a championship race. I'm pretty sure they're going to be racing each other very hard tonight, but hopefully a little bit more cleaner to where there's no serious contact. So I still say it's going to be racing as usual, but maybe just keeping an eye on each other a little bit more to where we don't accidentally take each other out.
Well, we've spent so much time talking about those three. Let's give a little love to some of our other drivers who really have had a great season. Aaron Thacker in the 8th position, that 816, Mr. Consistency and Mr. 4GT. We're a little partial here at GSRC. We love the looks of that Ford GT. So great to see Aaron Thacker back again in that machine. And curious to see how he's going to go today. He's got a number of top fives throughout this season and has basically just got himself up into the points simply just by bringing the car home week after week. Another driver looking for a good result this week that I think could really use it. Mark Feil sitting down there in 12th. Let's see if he can climb through the field. And then one more I want to keep an eye on is a driver that in most races we've watched has somehow climbed his way upward. And that is Takeshi Kita. He starts back in the field yet again, this time because he didn't put a qualifying lap in. He'll start in 20th. Taylor?
One driver I've been really impressed with this season was Michael Overbay in that number 36 Ferrari. Had some ups and down seasons in some races, but for the most part, always was just as consistent as our Ford GT driver of Aaron Thacker. Really consistent, knowing where to keep the car safe. Another driver is the teammates Aaron Thacker, unfortunately not here tonight, Alexander Klank, last week's winner at the Nürburgring. Always fast, always putting on a good show. And then finally, another driver who I want to give a shout out to is Pete Mabroten in that Fluffy Kitty Ninja Porsche. Love the team name that they've been doing, and he's been also running extremely well this last half of the season, getting top 10s the past few rounds.
All right, they're coming up to Hodgkin. The final corner here at Virginia International Raceway as the roof pace car leads them up to the front stretch. That driver is going to peel off, and then he's going to release them for 45 minutes in the final round of the American iRacing Tuesday Series. In goes the iRacing pace car. Eisler has control of the field, waits, and the green flag waves. He does not get a good start at all. In fact, it looks like he's going to be jumped by Ben Perez up around the outside. This could be a critical moment in the championship right here in the very first corner. What is Eisler going to do? Is he going to send it in deep and try to get it back? Not quite. Perez gets himself into the lead. A little bit of contact behind them between DuPont, and I believe that is William Whalen, but otherwise looks clean through the horseshoe.
Yes, turn one is always a scary one. You don't know, especially for spotting the start of those races. You don't know who's going to come out of there in one piece. As they head down towards Snake, it is still Ben Perez holding on. Looks like Pinto also had a really good start coming on the green flag, was able to get right near the bumper of Eisler, but unfortunately could not stick it through turn one. Eisler still holding on in P2.
Is this going to be another one of the races where Perez runs away with everything? He's at times almost Vettel-esque, where he gets himself into the lead and nobody can touch him. He's already stretching the gap over Eisler to over half a second as they hit the oak tree and now come onto the back stretch. And what about Pinto? Well, he got himself into third, a critical move for him.
Got to keep in mind, this back straightaway is a long back straightaway, so drivers will be utilizing drafting techniques to try to slingshot each other before going down into roller coaster. So we'll be keeping an eye, especially on the battle between DuPont and Landini as they're side by side. Nope, decides to think twice before going down the roller coaster. Got to be so careful through this section as you could easily lose the car.
Yeah, certainly a place to overtake, but not an easy one. Very scary if you're door to door. So DuPont slips back, sandwiched between the car of Landini and of Whalen. In fact, Whalen very close coming down the front stretch, which is almost as long as that back stretch. As they come up to the horseshoe, is he going to stick his nose in? The highlighter yellow car versus the highlighter green car. He's going to have to go the long way around as DuPont defends on the inside, and he slots back into line. So no dice for now.
Mr. Consistency, Aaron Thacker's watching these three Porsches battle, and he's like, I want to get in this fight, make sure to keep up the highest running Ford GT. Not able to close enough to make a pass, but as they get ready to go through turns 3 and 4 and to Snake, he's closing in on William Whalen.
So our championship leaders are starting to stretch away as Landini leads the train of 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th behind them. We'll look back from William Whalen on Aaron Thacker in his Ford GT. Up through South Bend they go. Looks like a little bit wide at the apex for Whalen. Puts him under threat, but so hard to sneak one in at the oak tree. And you bring up an interesting point here, handing me a note, Taylor, about what happened to Ben Perez last race.
Yeah, that was not a very unexpected deal for Ben Perez, having connection issues. Unlike in the real world where an engine problem could send you home, iRacing is a online simulator, so connection issues with the internet could cause more serious problems where you can actually no longer continue running a race. Will actually take you out of the room very quickly. So drivers need to keep an eye on their connections and hopefully no power outages either.
In fact, that is the other factor that put us in the position that we're in. Perez could have run away with his championship easily if he had just finished the last race, but getting disconnected cost him. Meanwhile, behind him, you see fastest lap went to Christian Eisler that time by. And a little bit farther down the field in 14th, sounds like we got a bit of a battle going on.
Yes,
Eric
indeed.
Luke and Valenzuela, go ahead.
Yeah, Eric Luke had a really nice run into turn 1, but it looks like Valenzuela had a really, also as they head down into NASCAR. Mark Feil having a really good run tonight, still running P12, only a few minutes in, but still is able to keep the car clean through turn 4 and 5 and 5A as they head into Snake.
Yeah, it looks like finally closing up on Valenzuela is Eric Luke, getting close to the rear end of that Ferrari. Let's see what he can do heading up towards the climbing S's. Has to withstand the buffeting, the wake of the car ahead as they weave back and forth, up and down crests and valleys through this quick section. And then over the crest of the South Bend. Looks like he's not as close as he used to be.
So head down into Oak Tree, hard on the brakes now. Try to make sure to... Oh, we got a car off.
Yeah, Ellison in Oak Tree has found the tires. That Ferrari slipping just a little bit wide. Looks like we got a replay. And right after this, Aaron Thacker had an issue. In fact, a very bizarre issue. So we're watching the replay of Ellison here. This is coming up to Oak Tree. Looks like maybe just understeered. Yeah, as soon as he got those tires in the grass, there was no stopping it.
Yep, there's no stopping it. Once you lose it, you're going to end up right into the tire barrier. So unfortunate for Mr. Thomas Ellison. Now,
we didn't have the replay of Thacker, but I can tell you what happened. He went wide at the exit of Oak Tree. As we watch him in battle. Oh! That was Michael Overbay getting into the side of him as he tried to make a move on Overbay into the horseshoe.
And there goes Overbay, off course.
Yep, we're going to look at the replay. He's headed into the concrete barrier, so that is not a light hit. So coming down into the horseshoe, it looks like just a great run off the final corner for the HJ Motorsports 4GT. And Michael Overbay's Ferrari under threat, slips it up the inside. Looks like maybe a little bit too much curb on the inside for Thacker there, and just kind of slid into him maybe.
Yeah, that's what really happened. What's more shocking is what happened to Overbay. I mean, it's not like there was major damage to the car, but still just went straight into the barrier.
Maybe it hurt his steering when he got ran into. Don't know.
That's
suspension damage.
Small possibility to where it is, but still very strange as DuPont now loses it into the roller coaster in that 009 Porsche. That was recover.
That was while he was in a battle with Landini. He actually got around him, but then outbraked himself. Let's take a look at it. Down the long backstretch. Oh, you can see just a couple wheels in the dirt for Landini, and that made him a sitting duck. As the Sprite car just closes in and closes in. Looks like he's got an opportunity because he'll be to the inside on that right-hander in the roller coaster, but not enough brake.
Yeah, most like definitely it just didn't have enough brake to able to save the car.
And just as we come back live, Landini just lost a spot to into the left hook after Landini had an off coming out of NASCAR. So, want to go back to Thacker's incident before he ran into Overbay. Now, on my time and his score, it says he had he was in the pits for 2.8 seconds. Well, that's because he went through the South Loop pits by accident. He went slightly off track out of Oak Tree, had to straight line it, and that led him into the pits that they're on the backside of the course. So I guess he didn't get a penalty for it because he kept going, but that was one of the strangest incidents I think I've ever seen on iRacing.
That's I've never heard of anything like that. Surprising he did not get a penalty, so very fortunate for Aaron.
We haven't checked in on our leaders for a bit. Remember, this final round, so championship is all on the line. Perez still leading by half a second, but look at Pinto. He is struggling today, 2.9 seconds, almost 3 seconds back from our top two.
Yeah, Pinto, I don't know what it is, but he is just not having a good night so far, and this is not the night to have a not-so-good night. This is the championship round, and Pinto needs to figure out what he's doing wrong in order to make it round, as it looks like Eisler had a little brake checkup into turn one. Very close not to hitting Ben Perez, but is able to recover, and that just gives Ben Perez the little extra needed to pull away.
Ben Perez doing what he needs. The best he can do at this point is win the race, set fastest lap, and obviously keep it clean. Oh, and we got some information about what happened to Overbay. Apparently, it was suspension that was broken with that hit. That's why he couldn't turn. Wow. So, disappointing way to end the season for Michael Overbay, especially after, like you said, the fact that he's had some decent results here and there.
Yeah, so very disappointing. So hopefully Michael can go back to the drawing board with his team and figure out some things to make some adjustments to hopefully have even a better run for next season.
So we watch our leader Ben Perez now stretch about a second over Christian Eisler. Farther down the field, Eric Luke still working on Cristobal Valenzuela for that 11th position. The 333 has been holding him off, and they are within close sight of Mark File. So this could be a fight for a top 10 spot if Mark makes a mistake.
Got a battle for P8 between Mabroten and Thacker as they head up towards Roller Coaster. Thacker is giving the pass right now, so Mabroten just let him by, knowing, hey, it's too early to be racing this hard into the roller coaster. So Thacker now back inside the top 10.
Great to see Thacker try to keep going, although I'm sure Overbay isn't too happy about that. He is being chased by Mabroten for that 8th position. As they come down the front stretch, it's about 5 more seconds up the road for them to catch 7th place Justin Hall as we ride on board with Mabroten now. Not missing anything with our leaders. In fact, the only difference now is that they've continued to stretch away from Pinto. It's 3.2 seconds. It's starting to look like this championship is slipping away from the one-time winner. Oh, and something happened with Fawcett?
Yeah, Fawcett got a little bit too loose off, and it looks like he just drove it off in through the roller coaster. Really just over-braked way too late, and just pretty much just went through the grass downhill through the roller coaster section.
Let's take a look at the replay here. Oops, caught just the end of it. Taylor, that roller coaster, as soon as you go off, I've always found it can be a race killer.
Yeah, it is very much a race killer. It's so difficult. We've seen it time and time again in both the virtual and the real world racing. Roller coaster can be your win or lose moment for you. So drivers are just trying to be careful through that section. Actually having that chance to drive on that section of the track, you feel like your whole body just sinks so low down into your seat and your gut just drops as you're making that descent down roller coaster. And it's just an amazing feeling, but yet still you feel so tense, especially driving on it for the first time. It's unbelievable and surreal.
Meanwhile, in 10th position, Mark Feil still trying to, actually has gotten past Cristobal Valenzuela. Let's see where that happened. Was that recent? Looks like it was not, unfortunately. And they actually have Eric Luke behind them.
Yeah.
Oh no, Feil was ahead of Valenzuela before. Excuse me.
Yeah, Feil's been holding on.
Myself.
Yeah, Feil's been holding on to P10 for the most part of these past few laps, but Valenzuela still just closing in, getting right near the bumper of Mark Feil, but just can't find that opening to make the pass. So he needs to be careful, Mark does, of leaving that door open to where it allows Valenzuela in. So Valenzuela is just slowly waiting his time, waiting for Feil to make a mistake. Let's see here as we move on through the rest of the field. Watching Danny Duchesne in P14, he's working his way up to catch up to Sean Kennings in that Porsche. Both of those drivers have been running really consistently. Not seeing too many problems with those two drivers. So we work our way through the field and looking to see if for any battles. P18, as we had also another car off. Justin Hall went off in the Oak Tree Bend and still is having difficulty getting back on track. Let's get a replay of that.
This looks very similar to what we saw with Ellison. Works his way through South Bend. This is down through the valley into Oak Tree. Is it just another understeering case? Yeah, slightly off that apex. Wheel in the dirt. Locks him up trying to keep it out. And I think he actually didn't hit the tire barrier. It's hard to tell through the tree.
Just a little bit of a bump, so not too much damage to the car.
Oh man, things are going worse for Pinto. William Whalen has run down our third place driver and championship contender. Again, Whalen, no worries for points for him. He just wants to finish as high as he can. So I don't think he'll feel any qualms about trying to get past the 969.
And also, you got to remember, Whalen has yet really finished a race in these few starts. So he's really hungry to get a good finish tonight and show that these championship contenders will have a newcomer next season.
So as Whalen stalks in the tire tracks of Daniel Pinto, loses a little time through the snake, just bides his time behind him for now. They are not alone because Juan Manuel Landini just behind these two, maybe about a second and a half back.
Down into South Bend.
Go ahead.
Really nice run by both drivers, Pinto and Whalen. Whalen gets a good run down into Oak Tree. Right on the bumper. Let's see if he can use the draft to his advantage to try to slingshot him down the back straightaway before they get into the roller coaster.
I think he caught a little bit of dirt off the exit, and that hurt him. You can see them stretch apart as they get speed and momentum up this long, long climb to the top of the hill. Now braking hard for the roller coaster once again, closing in right behind him. Do you think maybe that's a difference in setup? Whalen maybe using a little more downforce than Pinto is?
Probably is too, but also it's a big accordion effect when you go through that section. When you're going through that high-speed back straightaway, and then you have to get hard on the brakes. People have different braking points, as we now see Whalen look to the outside, going by the start-finish line to complete lap 10. Looks to the outside, still holding strong. Let's follow this.
Trying to do it the long way around. Pinto is trying to fend him off, but it's going to switch back in favor of Whalen. And the next couple corners, still side by side. This is tough braking here for NASCAR Bend. A little bit stronger for Pinto as he carries his momentum. Robust defense from Daniel Pinto to keep himself on the podium.
Really good job by Pinto. Hard racing. He's not going to give up that spot easily. As it goes down through Snake, you've got to be careful not to use too much curb to get collected into the grass. So he's got to be careful for that, as Whalen is now losing a little bit of ground. And
this is only hurting these two in terms of trying to catch our top two, because they are now 8.5 seconds back from Perez and Eisler. So they continue to drop away. The hopes for Daniel Pinto for taking a championship in his rookie season, dashing away bit by bit. Another time up the backstretch as William Whalen a little bit better off the corner, but maybe just slightly too hot into there as he lost a little ground as they found the power. The draft pulling him in, and I think it's too little too late as they hit the brakes yet again for the roller coaster.
Down through the roller coaster they go again. Whalen's hugging that curb as best he can. Down as they head towards Hodgkin. Looks to the inside. Not enough room to make the pass. Hodgkin's a good place to get as much momentum built for that front straightaway. Nice aligned holding for both of them. Down the front straightaway. Here's the time to use the draft. He may look to the outside again as they head towards turn 1.
Oh, he's a lot closer this time as he starts to come in on him, covering off the inside. Pinto is trying the same thing he did last time, but a little late on the brakes for William Whalen. Barely keeps it out of the grass. And this time he won't be side by side through NASCAR Bend as he slots back into 4th.
This battle is so very good between these two. They almost side by side from almost a lot of the section of the track as they go through 4, 5, and 5A down through Snake. Let's see if Whalen is able to look in before they. Looks like Pinto gets into the grass a little bit too much, but still is able to recover the car.
I was going to say he got a fantastic exit, grass or not, because he stretched away from Whalen. What was 0.3 of a second for a moment was 0.5. Whalen pulls him back into about 4. Down through South Bend. Not missing anything between Perez and Eisler. Is about 2.1 seconds between them. So it's been a solid race from Whalen so far. Just struggling, though, to seal the deal and get past Pinto.
Looking in on P10 at the moment, it is still 3 cars under the blanket with Luke Valenzuela and Mark File. Those 3 have been just still battling it out. Mark File holding on to P9, Valenzuela and Luke trying to find a way to get around him. This is really where we'll see the according effect happen as they go down the back straightaway off of Oak Tree. So we see these guys spread out to several car lengths apart to each other, but once they hit the brake zone heading into a roller coaster, you'll see these guys stack up nose to tail. So they got to be careful to give each other a little bit of room. They see them stack up. Accordion effect in place. Valenzuela right near the bumper of Mark File. Down the roller coaster they go. File able to pull away. So really good battle between these 3 cars.
So this train works its way onto the front stretch. File doing a fantastic job keeping them at arm's length. Just ahead of this, 5th place. Starting to get a little bit close. And actually, a change for position as Landini has an off in NASCAR Bend. DuPont says, thank you very much. I will take that. Let's take a look at the replay. Guessing just another case of letting the car get a little bit too wide. I've done this so many times, Taylor, at this track in every car. Under braking.
You're not the only one, Joe. A lot of even the pro drivers have had that issue. We saw that over the weekend where drivers just went too far off out of NASCAR.
Now, how well do you know the lore about VIR's corners? Because I've heard a rumor about where NASCAR Bend got its name, but I've never really heard if it's true or not.
I don't know. I've heard bits and pieces of rumors, but go ahead and see what we say. Joe.
Okay. So what I understood, names like Richard Petty and a lot of big name NASCAR drivers, when they raced here back in the 70s, went off at that corner, just speared off like we saw many have done so far, and found themselves into what I'm guessing was hay bales back then. But and so because of so many NASCAR drivers going off there, it was named NASCAR Bend. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, that does sound about right. And a lot of NASCAR drivers still do like coming to this track. I remember over the weekend talking with Ray Abraham and the Burtons, Jeb and Ward, and these guys really enjoy coming to this track, racing at this track in historic Trans Am's cars. And it's really an awesome pleasure to see those guys come out here and still support this amazing track.
So we watch DuPont stay ahead of Landini now, and I thought
spins. Saves it, though. Excellent save by DuPont into NASCAR.
And we have some pitters, and I think these are scheduled stops because File and Valenzuela have come in. Oh, and Eric Luke, who was in that battle, just went off in turn 1. down into the horseshoe all by himself. Did have some pressure from Mabroten, but this was simple driver error. Eric Luke outbraking himself and locking him up as we watch the replay.
Yeah, the Florida native, Eric Luke, just gets too late on the brakes and just down into the grass. It's a very common thing to see drivers just overshoot their braking point.
All right, so we've got a little bit of math to do, and on GSRC that's dangerous, but for the championship, it was 2 points gap at the start of the race between Eisler and Perez. There is a 3-point difference between first and second. So assuming that there are no bonus points by either driver, then Perez would have it. But we have to take into account the bonus points as we watch Mark Feil work his way around. Because again, there is 1 point to be earned by either of them for fastest lap, and neither or one of them could get a bonus for having less than 3 incidents. Here's Daniel Pinto still fighting for that third place. But this is interesting. I'm looking, is ducking to the inside, and NASCAR bent. Whalen starting to get a little bit desperate.
Whalen being very aggressive out of NASCAR down through Snake. Looks like though Pinto was able to pull away and get a good run off of turn 5. But Whalen really wanted to show that he is not here to play around. He doesn't care who's running a championship. He's here to get a podium tonight.
That attempt just took away what I was about to mention, which was Pinto had gained to about 7 seconds behind Eisler. Remember, it was almost 9 seconds before, but it's jumped back up to 8.7 now. More cars pitting. Sean Kenning has come in. I believe Vargas is in and out. Highest pitter right now is Mark Feil, sitting in 12th.
Yeah, Mark. Let's keep an eye on Mark Feil here tonight. He is the highest finished starting pit driver. So we're going to see how far he's able to work his way up through the field, as well as once the pit stops are completed.
And we got a pass for third, potentially again, trying around the outside of Roller Coaster. This is a tough ask for William Whalen. Side by side, he's got the inside as they come towards Hodgkin, and he finally gets it done after multiple attempts. Very
gutsy move by Whalen, just showing that he just really hard racing with Whalen and with Pinto. Let's get a replay of that. That was an excellent pass, surprising pass to see.
So just had a good slipstream, got a good launch off of Oak Tree, pulled out to the side, used the momentum, and was brave when he needed to be, and that gave him the spot. I think Whalen is finally getting himself accustomed to this series, and maybe he'll be a threat next season for the championship.
I would be very disappointed if he was not going to be a threat for the championship next season.
So trying to look up who's got the fastest lap here, because it isn't necessarily Perez or Eisler. Neither of them could wind up getting that. Between the two of them, the fastest lap goes to Eisler for now. And I think nobody else has a lap faster than either of them. Yeah, indeed, the fastest lap right now belongs to Eisler. So 3 points ahead. That will put them tied. Eisler blinking a little bit on our screens. Here's hoping that this doesn't come down to a connection issue like you mentioned. That would be a very disappointing end to a thrilling season.
I've been watching the lap times between Perez and Eisler these past few laps. Eisler running a little bit faster these past few rounds. Just barely, not by a whole lot, but just those small little increments can make or break, as he actually gained about 2/10 that last lap.
So as we watch Perez,
Pinto in.
All right, taking his stop after having all those problems with Whalen, maybe trying to leapfrog him back around. And interesting stat pointed out by our director here on the fastest lap. Perez and Eisler are separated by 8/100ths of a second on that fastest lap. 8/1000ths, excuse me. It's even closer than that. Jeez. That is incredible as Pinto comes back out on the track. So, going back to the points. So, Perez and Eisler, we believe, would be tied on points if both of them do or do not get those bonus points for a clean race. If one of them does and the other doesn't, that changes things. But if they tie, it is currently 4 wins for Perez to Eisler's 3. So if Perez wins this, he will win on a tiebreaker by number of wins. Man. It does not get any more tight of a championship than that, Taylor. That is crazy.
Welcome to sports car racing. Welcome to VIR. This is the place to definitely hold a championship race. As we see, Eisler gets a little bit overbroke into roller coaster. That definitely will mess up his rhythm. Was able to recover though, but that lost valuable time as they go down through Hodgkin.
So he's decided that is enough for me. I'm going to come in and get fresh tires and get back out there on track. Pinto did return to the track, and he is now our highest bidder. He sits in 7th. DuPont also
and he misses his box.
Oh.
That was not what Eisler needed. Just missed his box by a little bit, but still, that's going to cost him valuable time.
I talked about it in the intro. When the chips are down and when you have to perform, who is going to be able to minimize all their mistakes? Who is going to be able to be at their top? And it's little incidents like that that are going to hurt Eisler today. DuPont out. Justin Hall pits. Getting to the end of this pit window. 16 minutes left to go. And from there, if you're not past your competitor, if you need to win the championship, you've got to do it on track. Takeshi Ikeda, our climber, has worked his way up to 12th, some over pit stops, but he's taking his now, so we'll get a feel for where he's got his car. So he hits his spot nice and cleanly. That car that we see still is Danny Duchesne, who I don't think we covered whatever incident he befell. Obviously, he's either taking some severe repairs or has called it a day.
Just had a nice pass for 15th position between Hugo Galaz and Thomas Ellison. Really good close battle between those two. As Thomas Ellison, as we get a replay of that, it was down the front straightaway going into turn 1.
Yeah, here we see the two of them side by side breaking into the horseshoe. Nothing happening quite yet. Coming up towards NASCAR Bend. Where exactly did this happen?
It was going
Taylor?
right into turn 1. But I think our leader just went off a pit road.
Indeed. Perez has been in and out. And Overbay's woes get worse. He was way out in the alfalfa on turn 1, and I think that's because he was put a little off by cars returning from pit stops and missed his brake marker. Meanwhile, Mabroten pits and Eric Luke pits. That should be the last of our drivers needing to pit, except for Hugo Galaz, but he is well down the order. So what do things look like after pit stops now? Well, Ben Perez has stretched it out to 4.5 seconds over Christian Eisler. But again, Eisler still has that fastest lap. So they are tied, but again, Perez should win on a tiebreaker based on more wins. At this point, Perez has to keep it clean if he hasn't already surpassed those 3 incident points and hope that Eisler does not. Or if he's really gutsy, Taylor, he could try to get that fast lap away.
He could. I mean, Ben Perez needs to try to get every point that he can in order to maybe clinch this championship. So Ben Perez might try to run that fastest lap, try to show off, say, hey, this is my championship to win. So Ben Perez might go for that fast lap time as well.
Here we see our leader. Remember, Perez has 2 championships. The last 2 seasons have gone to him. This would make it 3 in a row, really stamping his dominance on the series. But boy, did he have to fight for it this season. He came back a-swinging. He won a string of races in the middle of the season. But then, just like his luck was poor at the start, his luck at the Nürburgring came crashing down, much like his internet. We see Thomas Ellison in a fight. This is with Sean Kenning for 14th position. That's Ellison we see in the blue and yellow Ferrari as we ride on board with Sean Kenning at the moment. Up the front stretch one more time. Just a little bit too far away for any attempt on this lap, at least for Sean Kenning, but could set himself up for a good exit out of the horseshoe. Let's see how they handle it. Nice and tidy by both of them. And I'd say that was very clean from Kenning to gain himself a little bit.
Yeah, Kenning's been running a really clean race, mostly just putting his car where he needs to, not making too many mistakes. So really good job by Sean Kennings, and Ellison making a decent recovery after making contact with the barrier early on.
A bit of a mistake coming into the snake from Sean Kenning. That's going to cost him and set him backwards. With that said, since that battle has broken up slightly and all the pit stops are done, let's run through the top 10, starting with our leader, get you up to speed on what's been going on this race. Ben Perez started in 2nd place, and this may be the move that wins him the championship. Around the outside of the first corner, he took the lead away in the very first turn. Christian Eisler held on at the start, tried to see if he could get it away from him, but it was not to be, and has now dropped back to a whole 5.7 seconds from Ben Perez, and is seeing the championship slip away. Daniel Pinto as well, since the drop of the green, has seen his hopes dashed. He may have won a single race this season, but, you know, he was still very close to winning this championship. He sits in 3rd, and definitely not going to win it unless something befalls the top 2 ahead of him. William Whalen has been threatening him for much of the race, but in the pit stops, Pinto got it back. Whalen made a gutsy move around the outside of the roller coaster. Looks like it was all for naught. He's back to 4th. Then 5th is rounded out by Juan Manuel Landini, who got a 3rd place last round, having started in 2nd. And looks like him trying to help his teammate Christian Eisler. Not going to happen today. He's a little bit too far back to do anything to help him out there. Let's go to the next 5. Taylor?
Guillaume Dupont in that number 009 Sprite Taco Bell Porsche. Just been much running in the same spot. He started in P6, running a nice consistent race for the most part. In 7th place in the 164 Ford GT, Mr. Justin Hall started in 10th place, working his way up through the field into P7. Mr. Consistency, as he's now going off track in Oak Tree. Looks like he missed his braking point again. Was able to recover and get back on track. Having a little bit of a rough night tonight. Still started in 8th position, but still holding on, but still putting on a good show. Pete Mabroten in the number 15 Porsche. Started 11th, has worked his way up through the field into the P9, inside the top 10. Him and Thacker have been battling back and forth for that majority of the race tonight. And rounding out your top 10, Mark Feil. He's been holding on to that 10th place spot for a majority of the race, holding off Valenzuela and Vargas. So excellent running for Mr. Mark Feil tonight.
There's your top 10 here with 9 minutes left to go on the clock. Something we didn't mention also that could be affecting how these cars are driving today, and setup could be a determining factor depending on how you did it with the car and according to the weather. And today, well, I know it can be steamy in some parts of Virginia, but Taylor, is it usually 103 degrees out on track up in the mountains like that of Virginia?
It was actually probably going to with a little hotter sometimes. I know over the weekend it was like 90 for most of the weekend, so very hot and just very, very, muggy with the humidity. A lot of rain happened over the weekend, so it can actually get really hot, and actually hotter than what we're seeing right now on track, making the cars even more loose than what they are now.
Haven't seen too many loose cars, though. It seems like a lot more understeer from what we've seen. Just drivers sliding off the track in a slow and frustrating manner as we watch second place Christian Eisler following Ben Perez home. This has got to be disappointment if this is how things finish. This will be the second season in a row that he finishes right behind Perez in the points. And not only that, well, not behind him, I should say, even with him, but won't take the championship because of Perez. And not only that, the sting has got to be there knowing that he outqualified him, Taylor, but couldn't beat him on track.
Yeah, that's got to be a real thorn in his thigh. And, you know, just having to know that feeling that you had the fastest car in qualifying in practice, but yet just making small mistakes, not going to get a good jump, cost you the championship.
Sounds like we got a bit of a battle for 13th. Eric Luke has been caught by Thomas Ellison. Ellison in the HJ Motorsports blue and yellow Ferrari as he rides in the tire tracks of Eric Luke down into Hodgkin. Ooh, Luke a little bit offline, but he makes it work anyways. I thought he came in too hot, but oh, did he cut the course? He's slowing up and letting him through.
Yeah, I think he had to cut the course penalty, which had to cause him to slow up, giving Ellison into P13. So Ellison working his way up to the field.
All right, it's good to see Ellison after his early woes come back and try to get himself a good finish. Really haven't had any major developments other than things continuing to spread apart up at the top. Well, I say spread apart. First and second are spreading apart, but look at the gap between Pinto and Eisler.
Yeah, that's slowly been closing in bit by bit. You know, it's about 6-7 seconds apart between these two. So also been keeping an eye on that. Wayland's been closing in a little bit now onto Pinto. So we could have a three-way car battle for second if things keep going the way they are.
Well, there's not much time left, and they've got a lot of gap to try and close up in these last 5 minutes. Not sure if that's possible without a real error from any of these three. And indeed, we should point out that, you know, Perez still has to bring this home. He's got the gap, but he's got to keep the car on the black stuff.
Yes, indeed, and hope and goodness that his internet connection stays together, as long as also keep an eye on lap traffic. Remember, early on in the season, we've had drivers had issues with dealing with lap traffic. So Perez has got to be careful and pick and choose when and when not to pass. And also our lap cars need to keep their eyes alert and open, knowing that the leaders are coming up on them.
So we're hearing that from, I guess, one of the teammates of Luke, that he actually gave up that position of his own volition, just didn't want to fight for it. So looking to maybe simply finish the race as we ride on board with Pinto now, dealing with that lap traffic. Not doing him any favors at the moment. Hugo Galaz gets around the other lap car of Gary Schilling. There's one out of the way. What about Galaz? Is he going to get out of the way? Ooh, almost comes back to the racing line in front of Pinto, lifts and lets him through. And Galaz and Schilling are fighting for position, we should mention.
Yeah, Schilling's hard on the brake down the roller coaster. That's going to bring him up right near the bumper of Hugo Galaz. Hugo Galaz still holding his line. Now here comes Wayland, the next car on the lead lap. He's going to try to look to the inside. Oh, so close. Almost made contact with Schilling as Schilling went off course a little bit. But Wayland's now going to get to the outside and pass them.
Traffic giveth and traffic taketh, as discovered William Wayland there. So what was coming down in gap between himself and Pinto increases back right away. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the final round of the American iRacing Tuesday series for this season. And it has been one of the tightest and most unpredictable championship battles we have seen in a while here in the American iRacing Tuesday series. But despite all the unpredictability, as it sits now, there you see both our race leader and who we expect to take the championship by a count back on wins. The fastest lap has not changed. And Eisler can only hope that he can keep his race cleaner than Perez can. There's the second place car. Second place last season in points. Currently second place in the points race this season as things stand. Just 2.5 minutes left to go. I believe that'll be 2 laps left.
Yeah, it should be about 2 laps for the most part. I can only imagine what Eisler and Pinto are going through, trying to figure out what they could have done better in order to try to get around the competition in order to take the win. So still 2 minutes, anything can happen, but still, this looks like this is Ben Perez's race to lose.
Certainly is, as he now extends the gap up to 6.1 seconds over Eisler. And the gap comes down as Eisler is 4.7 seconds ahead of Pinto. But doesn't look like he's really under threat from losing that spot. Rest of the field pretty spread out at the moment. There's only 2 real close battles. That's between Ellison and Luke and Galaz and Schilling. Those are farther down the order as Ellison and Luke fighting for 13th and Galaz and Schilling fighting for 17th. There we see Ellison.
One thing I got to give a shout out for Gary Schillings. Yes, Schillings might be one of those back marker cars who just runs here to have a good time, but always I've seen him come home with a clean car, and as I spoke too soon, he goes off in South Bend. Commentator's curse. I apologize, Gary, but still is able for the most part for the majority of the season, was able to keep the car clean and just bring it home.
Clean-ish car. I mean,
exactly.
It's got green on it, so you can't see the grass on it now.
Yeah, it's just camouflage.
Yeah. We mentioned Takeshi Kita usually climbing through the field. Not as drastic as we've seen in some races for him, but remember, he started this thing in 20th. Well, he's sitting 16th. Not a bad job today.
No, 4 spots, and knowing how very difficult it is to pass here at this track at some points, he's doing a very well job here today.
All right, white flag is out for Benjamin Perez. This could be his victory lap if he can just bring it home from here. He's got a safe gap back to his main rivals in this championship fight. He's got no traffic ahead of him. In fact, the next car up is Takeshi Kita, and he's almost half a lap ahead.
Oh, it looked like Pinto went off in Hodgkin.
Oh, no, and that hands away third place. Whalen moves back up for the second time. We're going to take a quick look at the replay before we get to Perez finishing, which we got time for. Looks like we'll need to back up a little bit more at Hodgkin, since you said that's where this happened, right?
Yeah, this was happening in Hodgkin. There he goes.
Yeah, there's just the tail end of it. Just to add insult to injury, just a little bit too hot in the first part, cut completely across, swings out into the weeds, and then comes back. But Ben Perez, a handful of corners to go, foot flat to the floor as he flies up the back straight, brakes hard for the roller coaster, nice and tidy down to that apex. No dramas on the final lap because he knows all he has to do is just cruise across the line. Is this the championship for Ben Perez? We'll find out soon. But regardless, he's going to be our winner today to take his 5th win of the season. Ben Perez takes the final round. Eisler comes home second, possibly a little dejected. We'll see if he's got it or not. William Whalen with a nice podium today. He never gave up on it and was rewarded with some champagne. Pinto, the championship is definitely out of his hands as he takes 4th. Tell you what, Eisler and Landini with a 2nd and a 5th, that is going to help them a ton in that team's championship. Most everybody pretty far apart here at the end. Justin Hall going to get a nice 7th, just leading Aaron Thacker home. Thacker, Mr. Consistency. Well, this time, unfortunately, the consistency is in position. He started 8th. He finishes 8th.
Oh, it looks like Mark File had an issue down the roller coaster. He was so well. And just looks like it just overbroke into the roller coaster. Unfortunate. Was able to keep it off the wall. But it was tight battle between him and Cristobal Valenzuela. And unfortunately, that gives Valenzuela the P10 position.
Luke is going to follow him home in 13th. And the rest of our cars just streaming in. We are going to take a quick break. This is the last car across the screen. Let me see if that gives us our incident points so that we can try and figure this out right before we go. That's Takeshi Kita. And there we've got the incident points. So, let's see, Ben Perez had 3, so that gives Ben Perez 1 bonus point. Now, what about...
Eisler had 1.
Eisler had 1, so they both get bonus points. That means this championship, we believe, unofficially, this has not been confirmed yet by the stewards, that Ben Perez is your champion. We are going to come back in just a moment here to try and get that confirmed for you. If you stick around, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC, but after that, we'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. We just watched the final round of the season here at in the American iRacing Tuesday Series. It was a championship on the line when they came into this before qualifying. It was a single point between the top three, and in the end, there was less than that between the top two. Ben Perez wins not only the race, but unofficially wins the championship. Christian Eisler misses out on a count back of wins and finishes second as well here in the race as well. William Whalen gets himself accustomed to this series and finishes in third today, able to spray the champagne, and Daniel Pinto loses out on the championship for sure, finishing in fourth. Juan Manuel Landini takes a fifth place with Guillaume Dupont behind him in second. Then Justin Hall finishes in seventh, followed by Aaron Thacker in eighth and Pete Mabroten in ninth position. Cristobal Valenzuela rounds out our top 10.
Coming home in the 11th position after an excellent effort by them, it was going to be Lucio Vargas in 11th place, followed by Mark Feil after that small mistake on the final lap in the 777. Eric Luke comes home in 13th, followed by Sean Kennings in 14th. Takeshi Kita comes home in the 15th position, and he'll be your last car on the lead lap. Cars one lap down are Hugo Galaz and Gary Schillings and Victor O'Brien. Thomas Ellison will come home in P19, and rounding out your top 20 will be Michael Overbay.
Then as we get to 21st, it's Danny Duchesne, followed by Andrew Fawcett in 22nd, and Karsten Quint did not start on this race. So with that, we mentioned our sponsor at the top, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and all the important mission that they are doing. Well, we have someone representing them here today. Michael Overbay actually is ready to talk to Taylor Burris about what is an incredibly important issue.
Yes, we're here with Michael Overbay. Michael, we want to just say thank you for what you're doing with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about it?
Looks like might be having mic issues with Michael. Do you have a copy, Michael Overbay?
Okay, now can you hear me?
There we got it.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Forgot I had on push to talk. Yeah, they are a wonderful society. They're helping me go through my illness right now, and they're a wonderful place for people to get information. Their support groups are wonderful. They have all kinds of pamphlets, and they have all kinds of groups that meet throughout the country that get together and with your family or yourself. And you can also, if you can't afford some of your treatments, I know some of the insurance don't cover some of the costs. They have ways that you can apply for grants and things that will help you with your treatments. And not only that for your hospital stays, but for your family stays and in case you have to go out of town or something. So it's just an absolutely wonderful society for that.
Yes, indeed. This also cuts a little bit close to home to myself. My mom was a 2-time Hodgkin's disease survivor, and what you guys are doing is just excellent to help out with those who are going through this difficult situation.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Matter of fact, I just had 4 rounds of a new treatment that I'm doing right now today, so been off a little bit with my driving, but that's okay. We're still having fun and still going at it.
Well, hey, Michael, that's pretty impressive for what you're able to do. Even going through those treatments, you're still out here week after week putting on a good job with these races and just showing consistency. I know tonight was not the finish you were hoping for, but still able to come out here in the position you're able to go through. That's quite commendable for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. It doesn't matter as long as we're having fun and keep your mind off things, right?
Exactly.
Thanks for interviewing me, and everybody go to lls.org, donate what you can. It'll really help out not just adults, but many kids also.
Well, all right, we will certainly most do that. Make sure everyone to take a look at the website at lls.org. So.
All right, we have the link in the description, I believe. Thank you very much, Michael, for coming and joining us. We are now going to be talking to what we believe is the championship winner. This is unofficial, according to our math. I don't know if you've gotten official word from the stewards yet, Ben, but we believe you have now taken your 3rd crown in a row. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I haven't gotten official word from the stewards yet either, but I think that should be it because we're only 1 point difference, and I know that first place gets 35 and second place gets 32 without any bonus points. So I'm pretty sure I got it.
Well, the weird thing is there's also a bonus point for fastest lap, which Eisler got. But there was a bonus point for the pole. Actually, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's a bonus point for pole. There's the bonus point for the fastest lap, and the bonus point for 3 or less incidents.
Yes. Okay. So that's right. So Eisler was 3 points. Was 3 points ahead of you with bonus points, but with the finish, that put you guys tied. And on count back, you beat him on wins according to our math.
I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head. But I also did get the bonus point for the incidents. So
yeah, both of you did.
Yeah.
So that one nullifies each other out. Anyways, we know not to do math here on GSRC. Let's talk about the race itself. That first corner right off the line, was that the defining moment for you that sealed this championship?
I think so. That was one of my biggest goals for tonight. If I didn't qualify in pole, was to get ahead of Christian as soon as I friggin' could, because I know that at this track at Virginia, it's pretty hard to pass. There's only a couple opportunities. I'd say at like turn 1, and at the end of the back straight would be probably the only few opportunities that you have to pass. So I knew that as soon as I got in front of Christian, that it'd be hard, if not impossible, for him to come back and fight it out. So for that to happen before the first corner, even, that was a godsend for me. And that was probably the longest 45 minutes of my life.
Well, it made us sit up and take notice when you made that pass, and because we knew what it meant, especially around a track like this where it's so hard to pass. Now, we didn't get to talk to you about last round because you disappeared. So tell us what put you in this situation, losing you those points at the Nürburgring that caused you to disconnect.
Man, oh man, last week was not a good week. I had just moved into my new apartment, and I mean, I guess it's happened a few times over the past few weeks now, but the power went out for like an hour to an hour and a half ish. And that's what happened. That's what caused me to disconnect and unfortunately lose all those points. I was pretty upset about that because that was kind of the seal. It was these last 2 weeks. I had like a 15, 20 point lead maybe?
Before, yeah, 22, I think.
Before last week. And that was just all gone because of a power outage.
Oh, the racing gods can be cruel, but at the same time, they giveth and they taketh, and they giveth back today as you get another championship. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for this three-peat?
Well, I definitely would like to thank PRL for organizing the league. It's very well organized, and it's been really fun to run in. And now with the introduction of the broadcast, as of I think it was last season, it's been even better to just go back and watch the replays and see you guys develop the story that we put on for you guys. I'd also like to thank Team Bushfink because they've always been with me through and through. Great group of guys. And yeah, I think that's it. I can't think of anything else.
Well, great stuff. I have to say, you gave us a thriller this season, coming back and then having to fight it all the way down to the wire. Again, congratulations, sir.
Thanks. If you don't mind, I have one little thing to say before I leave.
All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Christian is running next season as well, and I think that I'm not entirely sure for me yet, but I think I'll be running next season as well. You might see Christian in some black and orange paint, and as Bill would say, an annoying bird on the side.
Ooh.
It's not confirmed yet, but
Silly season already beginning.
Yeah. The plot thickens. All right. Well, thanks for that little tidbit. We'll be drooling over that over the off season. That's Ben Perez, your winner today, and of course your champion, the man who got beat for the second season in a row. The Iceman is with Taylor Burris right now.
We're here with Christian Eisler. And Christian, I can only imagine what's going through your mind right now. Tell us, what happened on that start of the race?
Well, one of my weakest point of all the season was the starts. all the times I got the pole position, I lose in the first corner. So it's very disappointing for me. The mistake once again in a decisive in the decisive race of the season.
Yeah, it is very unfortunate. We wanted to know about. We noticed that you had a little issue on pit road where you missed your pit box. Did you just overshoot it, or just what happened on there?
On pits?
Yeah, on your pit stop. It looked like you overshot during your
Yes.
pit stop.
Yes, I passed the guy in my box. I'm my plan B was stay close to them, save fuel, entry one lap earlier, and make an undercut. But I made a mistake just in the corner before the pit stop. I passed the guy in my box. I made all the mistakes in that in the other decisive moment of the race. So no good for me tonight.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Still getting second place again for you this championship season. But
Yeah.
what is your goals and plans for the next season? It's only not too far out. So any plans for you?
Oh, I I need I need to practice some aspect of my racecraft, my starts, some points on my pace and the middle of the race. I need to work in that aspect of my driving. And unfortunately, the first race of the season probably I miss because it's holidays here in Chile. So I will start with a drop week. It's not a very good start for the season, but I will try to do my best in the rest of the races.
Well, Christian, we do got to say congratulations on finishing second in the championship, and good luck to you for next season as we look forward to seeing you competing.
Thank you. I want to congratulate Ben for the champion. It is a great driver. To Daniel, to the organization, PRL, and you guys, you made a fantastic job in the broadcasting. So thank you.
And we'd like to thank you too for all the excellent racing that you brought us. So, and I believe Joe's caught up with our next driver, Mr. Daniel Pinto.
Absolutely. Fourth place finisher today, third in the championship. Daniel, I have to ask you, though, as the race progressed and you saw both Eisler and Perez pulling away from you, was it difficult to stay motivated knowing that your chances were kind of slipping away?
No, I wasn't expecting anything out of this race. I didn't know this track. I only bought it yesterday. I ran like 1 hour yesterday, and I only ran like another hour and a half before this race. So I wasn't expecting much. I was just running it just to be sure that I made the most races I could in this league, because I really like racing here. The races are fun, and league is really well organized. So well, I just wanted to run for the race, but I wasn't expecting to be finishing ahead Ben or Christian.
Knowing that, since we didn't get to ask you about last week, just like with Ben Perez and not getting to talk to him, are there any ill feelings about the incident you had with Christian that caused you to slip down the order? Because obviously that took valuable points away that could have made it possible for you to win the championship today. Or is that bridge under the, or water under the bridge, I should say?
No, I don't resent anyone. It was an honest mistake on his part. I don't think it was intentional. Well, I think he has the fault because he went with all four wheels out of the track, but I could have done a little bit more to avoid it, but well, I wasn't expecting that move. But well, I share the blame, so no worries, no ill feelings. And also, well, it gave a little extra spiciness to the championship. So
you can say that again. We were all very interested and intent on watching what happens today with how close you three were. One last one before we let you go. You said you enjoy this series a lot. We enjoy you racing in it. You've put on some great shows for us. Does that mean next season you're coming back and thinking you could maybe take the championship away from the dominance of Perez?
I will be trying to come back, and there's a teammate that will come with me. I'm still not sure if I can make all of the races, but I need to try to find the time for that, as I have an irregular work schedule. And also I need to fix my pedals, because today 2 issues again. Brake pedal just doesn't activate. This is getting annoying.
Well, that explains your mistake late in the race then. Commiserations on losing out in the championship, but congratulations on taking a win this season and multiple podiums. Hope to see you next month, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
That's Daniel Pinto.
Nice to speak to you guys, and see you next time.
Absolutely. Nice to speak to you too, Daniel. That was 4th place finisher today, Daniel Pinto, in his Sailor's Porsche. And we are going to close out the season for full now. Before we go, again, a huge, huge thank you to Overbay and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for sponsoring this race and help, and also for allowing us to help them bring awareness to their cause. Again, that is lls.org. If you want to go check out what you can do for them. Thank you to all the organizers of the Precision Racing League and the American iRacing Tuesday series for putting on an incredible season. This was a stunner, decided in the final round by countback of all things. At least we believe. We'll get for sure on that later. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Jules Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. We do believe we will be back for next season. We are in talks with the PRL about covering the American iRacing Tuesday series yet again. We will let you know as soon as we know that is confirmed. And as always, that'll be on, of course, Tuesday night. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.